Okay, part 2, Isabelle. So, visual elements. Okay, you say utilize imagery and text. Again, just use the language, the meta language specific to what we're talking about. So we are looking at language, persuasive or rhetorical language, and advertising conventions effectively, which challenge people to reevaluate their behaviors and actions on the road. Good. Now, it's not with this whole paragraph I've written down here, you need to just look at your structure. Introduce each visual element as your topic sentence, and then analyze how each ad is using it, or each creative director or copywriter is using it. So, for example, both ads use camera shots and angles. So that's your technique, effectively to convey their different messages. Okay, the Mac ad uses blah, blah, blah. In contrast, the Frontier Post ad uses blah, blah, blah. So have another look at the example annotation of the ads, which is attached to the visual elements handout that you had. And weave your comparison throughout this paragraph. Make sure that you are using the correct technical terms. So when you say features a young child, well, the creators of the advertisement have used a child model. Okay, situated in the foreground, dressed in a costume. So this is costume of a 25 to 35-year-old young woman. Okay, so she's dressed up in an adult costume, and it's set in an adult drinking environment. Yes, be specific. It's a restaurant or a wine bar. So you've said that, but you could edit this a bit more clearly. So these are props, aren't they? With a glass of, so it's a finished lunch and a glass of champagne beside her. Is it used to disturb the conscience? Yes, possibly. Now, you're talking about the target audience, so be specific here. To disturb the conscience, or to play on, I think actually rather than disturb the conscious, this is playing on the audience's sense of guilt. Because the whole point about this is that far too many people have taken that risk. So this is designed to prick their conscience. So it's designed to play on their sense of guilt, because they'll look at this and go, oh my gosh, I have done that. Obviously not me, Isabelle. So just be careful there. In order to, it's more than encourage, it's to shame them into reconsidering their behavior before driving under the influence. Okay. The advertiser used a display font. So yes, it's a display font which mimics childish writing to convey the young and playful tone of a child. However, this is juxtaposed, isn't it? It's used ironically to criticize people who use childish excuses to excuse abhorrent behavior. So the font is reinforcing that emotional connection between the target audience and the message, which is that people who drink drive are immature and childish, and you will be socially excluded if you do this, because it's unacceptable behavior. Okay, so this is repeated in the caption. It's not a caption. It's I think it's the slogan of this campaign: "Drink driving, grow up." Again, yes, further highlighting the message of the immaturity of behaviors portrayed. And this is contrasted by the bold white text. Well, what kind of font is it? It's capitalized. So, and have a look at what font it is. I think it's like Arial. So it's a bold, simple, plain, capitalized font, which reinforces this message. And this is command language. So you might wait and mention that in your language, but this is command language. Grow up, sit down, stand up, grow up. That's command language. So again, that the choice of font visually reinforces the juxtaposition of behaviors, adults versus children. If you're going to drive a car, that is a responsibility, and you need to make adult decisions. That is why children are not allowed to drive cars. In comparison, the dominant image in Pakistani newspaper features a set of car keys. Now, they've used special effects, haven't they, to position the car keys into the shape of a gun. So this is special effects. And they use logos in the form of statistics, evidence and statistics. The keys in its inconspicuous portrayal. It's not inconspicuous. It's very, very obvious. The way that, so this is graphics and layout. Talk about the camera shots and angles. If you look up at it, this is an overhead shot because we're looking down. This one is point of view and it's a mid shot. This is overhead and it's a close-up. So you need to have a topic sentence. Both advertisements use camera shots and angles in order to effectively convey their main message. Look at the lighting here and the way that it's very stark. The overhead shot means that this is very much in the foreground. The lighting is stark. It's highlighting the gun with this dark shadow around it, which, as I think you said, is ominous. Look at the way that the vectors. There's this sort of triangular vector here, which is sort of mirrored down here, and it's as though there's a symmetry which takes our eye down to drive safe, which is the ultimate message. Again, look at the positioning of the font or the language on this advertisement. It's positioned, and the look on the girl's face, it's positioned next to the model in order to look as though it's coming out of her mouth. So we know that this is what this lady is saying. This is the excuse. And this is what you look like when you make these excuses. The connection is, when you make these excuses, you look and sound like a little girl. And the idea is to shame you. So coming back, so you need to do a little bit more work on this visual elements, Isabelle. Structure needs to be more clear with each visual element. Make sure you are using the language from that handout to have that technical language, and then analyze how each advertisement is using it. Make sure you show your understanding that the creators of this text are using the conventions in order to have an effect on the audience. And you need to make sure you're showing what the effect on the audience is. One is to create a sense of shame. And it's sort of ironically humorous. The other one, there's no humor at all. It's to create it's to shock us into driving safely and create that connection between cars and guns. They are as lethal as guns. Language features. So I think I've mentioned a few of those. This is what you need to now just check on. I don't think the post it's not formal language. It's just statistics. Drive safely. It's not formal. It's very accessible language. Therefore, it's targeting a broad audience. Again, it is logos, but you say it's the rhetorical technique of statistics and evidence, and the reality, not the realness, behind the purpose of. So I think it's highlighting the danger of not driving safely. It's like you might as well pull a gun out of your handbag and shoot somebody in the head. So it's playing on the sense of fear. Yeah, so this is okay. It's up to you. I personally think the MACAD is more effective, but this is absolutely fine. Evoking emotion in the audience. You might even say, if you want to have that big picture. I don't know when it was brought out. When was it published? The rise in gun crime and media that is highlighting gun violence throughout the world, particularly in America, makes this very relevant, because we're bombarded with media images of gun violence. So if we can create that connection between gun violence and fatalities and getting in our own car, that is a very strong message. And you might want to just mention that, make this part a little bit more specific to that. Okay, Isabelle, I hope that helps, and enjoy your drafting.